this picture, we see mostly men.
Yes, it's probably, well, there were maybe 25 to 30 women, but the majority of them actually were men, and that's when we gave we had the lunch catered.
So how do you explain, given the fact that most of the homeless, according to Brian, happen to be single women with families, that the majority of the people who were there were men?
Well, this was in East Palo Alto. So East Palo Alto, the makeup is probably a little bit different.
Although East Palo Alto has the highest number of homeless in San Mateo County.
And it depends how we define homeless. You know, families tend to be the hidden homeless. They tend to be living in garages and basements and RVs and other places unsuitable for long-term human habitation. The moment a family in the Mid-Peninsula becomes unsheltered and is sleeping under the stars, there's programs that we can put them into and help them get back on their feet. So family homelessness tends to be a hidden problem where there's 3-4 families doubled up in a garage or a basement.
Would you really call them homeless? They have shelter.
Well, they're very transient. Most importantly, I think they consider them homeless. Most of them are identified, you know, 3rd, 4th, 5th graders. They don't have a lot of ego yet. They're liable to tell their grade school teacher, we're homeless. And so they can see, you know, if they're living in a garage, they're living in a basement, most importantly, they consider themselves without roots or a home of their own. So we try to get them into a shelter. You know, people forget that the primary cause of homelessness is poverty. You know, I mean, there's drug problems out there, there's mental health problems out there, but it's poor people that are homeless. You know, if you're middle class and you have mental health issues, you have substance abuse issues, you tend not to lose your housing. But homelessness is caused by poverty, and so it's important to get these people working again.
Do you agree, in terms of the homeless that you see, that their homelessness is caused by poverty?
Yeah, I agree. There are, of course, many reasons for homelessness. If you're talking women and families, domestic violence is a huge cause of homelessness. In fact, it's probably, excuse me, one of the #1 causes of homelessness for women and also their children. So it's very big. Of course, not having a job. There is, you know, lots of times we say, oh, you know, they're homeless because they don't want to get a job, they like sleeping out on the street or whatever. And there's some truth to that. It's a very, very small portion of it. Most of the people who are homeless are people, literally, just like you and me, who something bad happened to them, and they did not have the resources to fall back on.
So how long is the average person homeless, if there is an average homeless person that we can talk about?
I would say it would depend upon the person and their connection to their community. But I was told about homeless, anybody that doesn't have their own, even though if you live with someone else, you're still homeless. If you live with your relatives and you don't have your own, you're homeless.
Well, you know, that covers an awful lot of territory. And when we think of the homeless, at least when I think of the homeless, I think of people who are sleeping outside, who have no place to go. When you think of the homeless or talk about the homeless, who are you talking about?
Well, it could be someone sleeping in a garage. That is part of the definition of homelessness, is people who don't have a regular place to live. They may be sleeping on a friend's couch. That's still considered homelessness. They may be sleeping in a car. That's still considered homelessness.
People that work in the field kind of divide the homeless population up into sheltered and unsheltered. So that if you're living in one of our homeless shelters, we all run shelters, you're still homeless, although you're living in a shelter. And you know, you're living in a garage, living in a shelter, living in a basement, where you're not paying rent. It's all kind of different subpopulations of homelessness.
So it seems, the way you're talking about it, the shelters can accommodate the people who are unhoused.
For a period of time.
Can they? Is there enough accommodation, enough facilities?
We turn people away every night.
No.
We turn families away every night, and we put them in motels up and down the El Camino in the peninsula as they're unsheltered homeless families as they're waiting for a bed. Every night we have about 12 or 14 families waiting for a family unit, and every night we turn away between 5 and 30 homeless individuals without children.
So you say you turn them away, and earlier I heard you say that we put them in hotels.
Families.
So do,
San Mateo County has a policy that there won't be any unsheltered homeless children on the streets. So that if a family is with a minor child and they're living unsheltered, the police will bring them to us. We will put them in a motel. We have motels up and down the peninsula that we contract with until there is a family site available.
for how long? You said until there is a family site.
Sometimes they're there for 3 nights, sometimes they're there up to a month.